Thank you for joining another segment of Emma. And tonight's dinner is leek soup with roasted rosemary tomatoes, baked asparagus, lamb chops, and these are all our ingredients that I'll be using for my dinner, to include my green beans. So I got my rosemary and fine leaf thyme picked fresh from my garden. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my baked potatoes and my potatoes to bake in the oven, so I can half bake them, and then bring them out, cool them down, and then cut them up and put my rosemary and olive oil, salt, and black pepper to do my rosemary roast potatoes. Then secondly, I'm going to go ahead and start on my lamb chops. I'm going to have that marinated and sit for an hour while I start on my leek soup. My leek soup is going to be served cold. It's not a hot soup, it'll be a cold soup. So let's get started. Starting with my lamb chops. So let's start on our meat, our lamb. And we're going to build this lamb. Oh wow. That's going to go ahead and scale off all the fat. It does have quite a bit that we're just going to scale off. All right, good. Just a few more pieces to go. And then we're going to start scaling back and get our lamb all nice and marinated. Okay. That's it. That's the fat we can be removing. So this is going to be the thickness of our lamb. And basically how the lamb is going to be cooked, we're going to be sauteing the lamb in olive oil, marinated with rosemary, salt, and black pepper. Nice and fresh. And once we finish, we're going to build our tower with all our side dishes. And there we have it. All our lamb nicely cut. So I'm going to go ahead now and wash it. Let's see, there's a few more pieces that be skimmed off here. We wash it and then marinate it. So our meat is all nice and clean. I'm going to go ahead now and start to marinate it. So I'm putting my black pepper. And I'm using my kosher salt. And now I have my fresh rosemary. That I'm putting in. And then my olive oil. I'm going to put it to marinate now. We're going to be marinated for about an hour. rest is very simple. Salt, the rosemary, black pepper, and our salt. That's it. You can smell the fresh rosemary. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and put this in the refrigerator. So for 1 hour. So right now we're gonna go ahead and cut up our onions and more rosemary and our garlic for our leek soup, because the leek soup has to be served cold. So we have our scallions, which is also called green onions. I'll do that very small. Now once this is finished, this is all going to be puree. Okay, and now our onions. So this is going to saute until everything becomes transparent. Then we're going to go ahead and add our leek. And we're going to do the same thing with our leek to make sure that that is transparent as well. And always practice safety. When you're using sharp object, be careful. And try to keep a sharp object away from younger children. All right, good. So this is all cut up now. Now to do our leek. This is our leek. So this is the only portion of it that we need. And I'm going to peel the outer skin off. You have several layers like the onion. So we go ahead now and wash this so we can go ahead and start cooking. So the remaining of this gets thrown away. So we're going to wash everything else out now and then start our cutting. So everything is washed. We're going to do the second washing too, because I washed the other side, but inside of it there could be some more dirt in between. So this is the leek. As I stated, this is going to be soup made out of it, and this is going to serve cold. It's going to be a cold soup. Not everyone likes cold soup, but you'll see. It's very delicious, and once this is done, we're going to puree it, and then we'll be ready to serve. Okay, so let's finish cutting everything up. I see basically about a 1/8 of an inch. I'm cutting it. And if any of you want to cook the same meal, and you go to support, it's spelled L-E-E-K, leek. All right, so there we go. It's all nice and cut. So now let's start and saute in the vegetables. All right, our stove is on. And let's get started with our leek soup. So olive oil is in. So now it's going to wait to be heated up. So we're going to go ahead and put our ingredients, start putting our grease, our onions, and our garlic. And now our leek. And now we can cook this until it's transparent. So you can hear the sizzling. And now as far as liquid, I have my chicken broth already standing by, so that will be our liquid instead of water. It's going to take a few minutes before everything is starting to show that it's transparent. And once that starts, that's when you start adding your other ingredients. So as you can see, everything is beginning transparent and starting to turn brown. So now I'm going to go ahead and continue stirring until it all separates like an onion would. Go ahead now and start adding our liquid meaning our chicken broth. Okay. So this is our chicken broth. We bring this to simmering before adding our wine. So once it's finished simmering, we're going to add our Hennessy to it. So while our leek is simmering, we're going to go ahead and start on our potatoes so we can get that ready in the oven to bake. And that's going to be our rosemary roast potatoes. So I'm working with 3 different types of potatoes. I have the black potato, miniature black potatoes. As you can see, the potato is actually black. And then I have the red bud potato, which is red on the outside but clear on the inside, just like the English white potatoes.
Is that nice? You put it back. It was super fun. I'm not care, guys.
So there's a lot of black potatoes.
Stop that, Mama. You don't care.
So we just cut them up in bite-sized pieces.
There's no food in it. You will.
So almost finished cutting our potatoes up. So what I did first, I baked the potatoes. The bigger potatoes will bake for an hour, and the smaller potatoes will bake for 30 minutes.
I'm not watching that. You what? Hey.
Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and add my olive oil. Okay, great. So this is what we have. So we're going to start cutting up our rosemaries now. So what you do is just hold it from the top and just run your fingers through. For those that will come off, just wind it down straight down and it comes off easily. we're just gonna go ahead and chop it up fine. See how easy it comes off? And the top portion is that way you pick out individually. Okay, there we go. You can use the dry rosemary, or you can use fresh, but it's better taste, has better flavor, and the aroma is much better when it's fresh. So I make sure that I always have this in my garden, and you don't have to worry about the winter time. It survives the winter. Okay, good. So we'll do the fine leaf thyme, which is also known as the German thyme. That's also fresh, but I really don't need to cut it up because it's already small enough. Okay. So we'll have to rosemary. That's okay. There we go. We are done. So we can get this on to our dish, so we can go ahead and put it in the oven to start baking. So we're going to go ahead and put our salt, and now our black pepper, and now our rosemary. Okay, great. And now for olive oil, and then we're going to toss it with our hands to make sure that's mixed in thoroughly. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and put this to bake for 20 minutes. Okay, let's cover this down so we can bake. So for the first 10 minutes it will be covered, and then the last 10 minutes, like 20, it will be uncovered. So our leek soup has met to that time where we can go ahead and add our Hennessy. So we can go ahead and we let that boil down now. To 1/3 of the liquid. And when this boils up, we go ahead and add our salt and our black pepper. Get every drop. Okay, so our soup is done. So we're going to go ahead and turn our stove off and let it chill for a few minutes before I go ahead and prorate it. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and start preparing our asparagus. Our asparagus has already been washed, as you can see. So basically what I'm doing is just, some of them are just cutting down the middle of it. And then we're going to put some black pepper and salt and olive oil and garlic in the oven. So you're going to cook in, grill in the oven. Okay, great. So our stove is off. Okay, so our asparagus is cut up. So we put it in our dish to put in the oven to bake now. Okay, so our salt is there, our black pepper, and our olive oil. And now to go ahead and put our garlic in. So this is our garlic that we cut up earlier, nice and fresh. Okay, just tossing it. And now we're going to put this in the oven when we start to grill, saute our lamb chops. So this is going to sit now for another 10 more minutes. All right, put that to the side and let's start our next dish. So we can ready now to puree our leek soup. You can either use this, do it in a food processor. I choose to do it in this dish with the handheld. Okay, here we go. And this is a handheld one. Okay, so as you can see, it's pouring. And again, this will be served cold. So now everything has been chopped up very fine that you can actually be able to drink it with a spoon. And there'll be no lumps, no clumps, no nothing. So there it is. It's finished. See? And this is how it will be served. But the only difference is it will be served cold instead of hot. So our soup is completed. We got the few more that have to be placed. So I just want to make sure that everything is clear. So our soup is done. So we're now going to put to chill. And now we're going to go on to our next project of our dinner. Okay, we have our pan on. I'm going to go ahead right now and put our croissants in the oven to bake. And while our croissants are being baked, so we have the croissants in the oven, the potatoes in the oven, and the asparagus in the oven. So now we're going to go ahead and start searing our lamb chops. Okay, here we go. So the first one in to be seared. So you want to keep our stove on medium heat because you don't want it to burn. Just searing it. The aroma is breathtaking. Look at this. Perfect, perfect, perfect. You want it very low, medium to low. You want to make sure it cooks through. With a nice brown coating. lift it up gradually to make sure. So just need a few more minutes on each side. So let's go ahead now and check the back. Oh yes, nice, perfect. Good. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And the aroma. And we leave it simmer here too for another 3 minutes. And then remove it and put in more. Just trying to get them all nice and sealed. Some of them still have a little fat in it, so you can try to get some of that fat off. Very nicely. Alright, so these are ready, so I'm going to go ahead and take these out and put them in our holding dish. And we're going to put in a few more. Almost there. All nice and seared. Nice and seared. The croissant is ready. I'm now getting the rest of the dishes out of the oven. Okay. So that's that. This is done. Let's get the rest of the food out of the oven. So the last one is coming out. Let's turn our stove off. The last one is out. So all our lamb chops is done. Let's get the remaining food out of the oven and start placing. So we begin to plating. So the first thing that we are starting with is our leek soup, and this soup is served cold. And then with our garnish, and now for preparing for the rest of the meals. So now for our champ, and now for a mushroom sauce. And there we have it. We have our seared lamb chops in rosemary roasted tomatoes, and grilled asparagus with croissants. We're serving with a leek soup. Thank you for joining Emma in another segment of Cooking with Emma. See you next time. Bon appetit. So the complete meal. See you next time. Thank you for joining Emma in another segment of Cooking with Emma and Cooking with Emma International.